Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Inspiration comes in many forms, and for me, my inspiration comes a lot of times by looking at old vintage items or visiting antique shops. Over the weekend, I was up north and I did visit a few antique shops, and I found these wonderful old airmail envelopes, and I picked up a few to hang around in my studio. I like to have old items just lying around, not only to use them in my photos for staging, but they also give me lots of inspiration. So I decided to pull out my Holtz Remnant rubs and see what I could put together using that old postal airmail envelope as my inspiration. Now, I've never actually used remnant rubs to create an entire background, but last month, Holtz did use this technique in his 12 tags of 2016. So I thought I would give it a try. So the way that he started, he just basically took some of his remnant rubs and put them all over his cardstock. And he did leave some space in the middle for an actual stamp, which I will be doing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let you listen to some music while I put this card together, and I'll come back and I'll explain to you how I completed it. Now, I don't use Distress Stain very often, and one of the reasons I don't use it that much is because it is pretty watery, and I've found when I've used it before, it just tends to oversaturate my paper. But I did want to try this technique because when Holtz actually used his Distress Stain against his remnant rubs, it did work as a resist, so I definitely wanted to give that a try. So what I ended up doing is dabbing it not only on my paper, but also on my craft mat. And then I came in with my blending tool, and I used the sponge to soak up a lot of the moisture. And that seemed to work for me. Like I said, I don't use the Distress Stain very often, but I really like this effect. I like that it creates shapes if you just dab it. And then I also liked if I put it on my craft sheet, I can blend it in very easily. And once I had the desired look, I just brought in my heating tool, and that seemed to dry up the cardstock really nicely. Now, the stamp that I'm using for my sentiment is one of Holtz, and it had a sentiment of journey. And I was going for a masculine card on this, so I thought this sentiment worked really nicely along with the postal theme that I had going on here. The biplane stamp is from Suzy Stamps, and again, because I was going for a postal airmail theme, the combination of the remnant rubs and the biplane paired up really nicely. The paper stack that I'm working with is from Crate Paper, and it's called Route 66. And it had some great combinations of paper for masculine cards. Once I distressed the edges using my distress tool, I did come in with some walnut stain to age up the edges of the cardstock, and then I added some postal washi tape along the top. Background stamps are a nice addition when you're creating a vintage inspired card. They create great grunge and they really help to age your card. The background stamp that I'm going to use on this card is from Tim Holtz, and I really like this set, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one, it has some great patterns for backgrounds, but mostly the reason I like it is because you're able to hold it in your hand as I'm doing now. The stamps are oversized, so you can add as much or as little ink as you need, and then you can control the pressure of the stamp by using your fingers to actually stamp it rather than an acrylic block. And that enables me to add just the right amount of background grunge. I have the control, and at this point I would hate to ruin my background without having control of the stamp, because the card is complete. So once I had the final look, I did adhere it to my white card base, and then I did come in with a postal rubber stamp just to finish off the edges. I will leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this card, along with the links to the stores. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love to have you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button before heading out tonight. If you've enjoyed the video, I would love a thumbs up, and feel free to leave a comment. I always love to hear your feedback. Alright everyone, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.